So in 2017, 4 years after the attack, Detective Seymour was hiking with her kids and gets a text message from her boss that says, "Call CBI, there's an update in the duct tape case." And she yelled, "We got him."
No. What up?
Episode, 116.
Coming at you. For a second, Rebecca texted and was like, "What time can you record?" And I my heart dropped. For some reason, I was like, "My episode?"
No, mine, bitch.
Oh my God. I was like, "What do you mean?" Because I'm leaving for Martha's Vineyard, in 2 days. So I am like, the goal is to finish early, my next episode. But for some reason, I was thinking you meant mine. Yeah, I freaked out. I was like, wait, I'm not ready.
That was at 5 this morning, too.
Phew.
All right. But I don't have anything at the top. So I can just get on. Go. Oh, right.
Hell yeah.
Oh, okay. Today, I'm telling y'all about Amber Smith. Source. Okay, and here's the thing. Yeah, I randomly saw this. It was I think oxygen.com or something, or Oxygen Instagram, something about this. And I was like, what? The headline caught my attention. Duh, I'm the perfect target. It's such clickbait. And I just clicked that bait.
Done.
And it was a fascinating story. So I went to our podcast notes, our shared one, and it turns out Rach added this story back in somewhere 2022 or something.
I don't remember.
And you're like, I don't remember me adding it, but I was like, oh, then dubs. I got this.
Why didn't I call dubs?
Have no idea. Anyway, sources are the Coloradian, oxygen.com, cbs.com, and there is a Dateline Unforgettable. Did a story back this they did in 2020. It's called Left for Dead.
That's probably where I saw it.
Yeah. And there's actually the previous sources, aside from the Coloradian, there's a lot of details on that. There's not a bunch on it. Watching an interview, just a little heads up, you're going to find out in the first paragraph Anyway, this is a survivor story. And watching an interview with Amber, she's very quiet, seems very timid. I can tell, does not love being interviewed. Keith Morrison even addresses it. She's like,
oh my God.
Essentially like, you don't love being here, do you? And she's like, no. Which is why I assume there's not a ton on this because, finding information requires getting it from the source. And if she's only done one interview, and that's with Keith Morrison. So good for her. If you're going to do something,
girl.
Yeah, do it right.
If you're going to do it, yeah, that's who you do it with. Interesting. Okay. I guess I know it. I don't remember adding it. Okay. Here we go. In 2015, 22-year-old Amber Smith moved into a house with a bunch of people in Fort Collins, Colorado. And when I say a bunch of people, it was her boyfriend's friend, Bryce Bailey's house. And he had a spare room, but there were a few roommates. It was a mix of guys and girls, and they kind of lived like friends. Yeah. Students?
No, I mean, various ages. I think the oldest one was in his 30s. She's 22. We'll get to what she's up to.
All right.
Like living in Fort Collins. So it was a mix of guys and girls. They kind of lived like friends. You get it. The TV show.
Duh.
It was supposed to be a temporary place to stay because she did have a 5-year-old son, Gabriel, at this point, who I think also moved in. I can't imagine where else he would be because his dad's not in the picture at all. I can't even find his name.
Yeah.
So they move in and she hits it off with all the roommates. And aside from Bryce, Amber becomes closest friends with a guy named Stefan Moon, who everyone called Sam. He was the most welcoming and they would stay up late talking. And one night she told him about an incident that happened to her 2 years prior. And it's the reason that living with people, strangers really, was a big step for her because up until now, she had been withdrawn and suffered from depression because of, again, what happened to her. So here we go. In August 2013, 2 years prior, Amber was a 20-year-old single mom working at a local 7-Eleven in Fort Collins while earning her GED. So she was strapped for time.
Right.
On a very rare night, Amber asked her sister-in-law and best friend, Kirsten Aguilar, to babysit Gabriel while she went out with her other friend, Eric Vanagunas. She had the night off from work and needed a break, and it was a very nice night out, so they went to Rossboro Park and drank there. But after polishing off a bottle of something, I think vodka, they were pretty drunk, and Amber actually ended up falling asleep at the picnic table.
Oh, man.
Eric tried waking her up, but she wouldn't budge, so he left her there.
Eric.
That's some poor judgment right there.
Ooh, God bless her. She's going to wake up in the morning in a park.
I know. After a few minutes of driving, he started to feel bad and went back. When he saw that she was peacefully sleeping and okay, he left her again.
Oh my God, give it another go.
I mean,
just shake her a little bit.
I don't know. I can only assume he was wasted and not in a good headspace to make rational decisions or drive for that matter, but whatever.
Yeah.
When Ashley regained consciousness, she was on her stomach on the ground in a remote area, still in the park, but not at the picnic table.
Oh my God.
Her hands and feet were bound and her mouth was covered with duct tape. And there was a man on top of her.
Oh,
this is terrifying.
Yeah.
And to be in this deep ass sleep and wake up to this type of danger and unable to move. Like I wonder what the trauma response is from
oh God. I can't.
Her eyes weren't covered at this point, but it's so dark she couldn't see his face. And when he realized that she was awake, she felt this blow on the side of her head. He either hit her with something or punched her. She knew she was in danger, so she started screaming through the duct tape, but realized a rope was around her neck, getting tighter and tighter every time she struggled. Then he said something to her that Keith Morrison wouldn't repeat, but I read in another source. The quotes were that he said, "You're going to blank, blank." So I'm assuming it's something like you're going to fucking die or something.
Yeah. I feel like Keith would say that though.
I know. I said that. That's what I thought too. But he said something to her that I will not be repeating.
Wow.
So I'm like, I don't know what else it would be. You're going to
effing
it said explicit. So I'm like, fuck, I don't know. But then if it was that, I would assume it'd be you're going to explicit die.
Yeah.
You know? So,
yeah. I don't
then
know.
she felt another blow to her face. She remembers thinking, I cannot leave my son behind. That's my baby. That's my world. Dying is not an option.
Oh.
But she felt the rope get even tighter around her neck and said it was like this 1, 2, 3, and she saw a bright light before losing consciousness again. By some miracle, she woke up hours later on a cold pavement in a different park now. She doesn't realize that at the time, obviously, but she was in Cottonwood Glen Park. She was in an unimaginable amount of pain, naked, still bound, bleeding, and this time her eyes were covered by tape. So she didn't know if her attacker was still around, but she didn't care. It was one more chance to give it her all and yell for help, so that's exactly what she did.
Oh, God.
Someone whose house backs up to the park said the agonizing screams woke him up around 4 a.m., and he and several other neighbors were out on their back porch trying to figure out where they were coming from, but had no luck, so they just dialed 911.
Oh my God. Wait, so it's 4 a.m. She's in a different part, but doesn't
She's in
know
a
that.
different part. She doesn't realize that.
Okay.
Rookie cop Dane Stratton, who melts my heart. This case affected him so much, which we'll get to.
Oh my God.
Was first to arrive to the park. It's pitch black dark, so he's driving around with the spotlight on, following her screams for help, which he says he can still hear to this day. Being only on the force for 2 months at this point, he said his heart was pounding the entire time, and finally his headlights caught her on an access road. And the first thing he noticed was there was red all over her face, which we come to find out wasn't all blood. It was red duct tape that he bound her with. Her hair was matted across her face with the duct tape wrapped so tightly around her head that they couldn't get it off by hand. First responders had to cut it off of her. Her hands were bound with it to the point where they looked like mittens. There was so much duct tape used.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It would eventually be referred to as the duct tape case.
Wow.
So it's a terrifying sight, and she is just screaming in agony. Officer Stratton said it was beyond anything he could imagine. He said it was a horror movie, and whoever left her like this clearly left her for dead.
Yeah.
Hence the title of that Dateline.
All right.
She was able to say her name, but understandably could not calm down. She could barely get out words. But what Officer Stratton could understand was that she didn't remember anything about the attack or who did it. They rushed her to the hospital and put her under an alias because they thought it had to be someone she knew, since it was such a savage and brutal beating, and they didn't want this monster to find out that she was still alive.
Yeah.
At the hospital, they determined she had severe brain bleeding and a broken jaw. Her face was so swollen she couldn't open her eyes, and when Detective Siobhan Seymour arrived at the hospital, she said that she was shocked the girl in front of her was the same girl in the license picture. She was completely unrecognizable. They advised her not to look in the mirror. I don't think she saw what she looked like for like 3 days or something.
Oh my God.
But from that point on, Siobhan was determined to solve this case. And she's a badass detective. Her dad was an FBI agent. Her grandfather was in the CIA. So, like,
okay,
it's in her blood.
Shit, that's good genes.
Yeah. Fort Collins Police Department as a whole, chef's kiss.
Oh, chef's kiss. Okay, let's go.
They're all wonderful.
Uh-huh.
Not very surprising, an exam confirmed that she had been raped. Semen was found inside of her, so they processed her entire body forensically for DNA. Her hands, face, neck, everywhere. They swabbed every inch of that red duct tape and obviously collected the attacker's sperm.
Mm-hmm.
After she rested a little bit, Detective Seymour interviewed Amber, hoping she remembered something, but her jaw was hurting so badly she couldn't really talk.
Mm-hmm.
She was able to tell her that the last thing she remembered was drinking in the park with Eric. So first person Seymour wants to talk to is that dude, obviously. Yeah. Eric was also 20 years old and he lived with his parents. So she goes to his house, but his mom said he was volunteering at the local church. So they go down there and question him. He confirmed Amber's story. They were in fact drinking at the park. That's when
it's just like likely story. We need to talk to this guy about a brutal attack. Oh,
he's down at the church.
He's at church right now. It's like, I bet he is.
Sure is.
Oh, well, he just got back from volunteering at an orphanage. He's either the soup kitchen or the church, one of them for sure.
For sure. And yeah. And he was. So what can you do?
Damn it if he wasn't at that fucking church.
I'll be damned if he wasn't at that fucking church.
Good for him.
I don't know. He confirmed Amber's story. They were in fact drinking in the park. And that's when he told them that he left her there. A decision he felt very guilty about. He's very cooperative. He provides his DNA, his prints. So for now, they let him go. While police think it had to be someone Amber knew, they also consider the possibility that it's not. It could be completely random, and this is a college town, so a 20-year-old drunk woman is pretty common. And if there's a serial rapist and potential murderer out there, this will happen to someone else. So they're feeling a huge amount of pressure. They put this case under a rush status. So within 13 hours of the attack, Detective Seymour is back at the hospital to see if Amber's recovered any memory at all. And she has, and that's when we learn about the rope around the neck, the blow to the head, all that. And she's very embarrassed during this interview. She's very clearly blames herself for putting herself in that situation and drinking too much and all that. And like, we obviously know it's not your fault, obviously.
Right.
4 days after the attack, she's released from the hospital and transferred to a safe house, but she said she did not feel safe at all. She was so afraid he was still lurking and would come back to kill her. It was beyond anxiety, especially because if Eric didn't do it, she has no idea who did.
Yeah.
And the idea of him watching her was too much for her to handle. She couldn't go to the grocery store without wondering if he was in there. She was afraid to go out of her front door.
Right.
Detectives, though, were less worried. They figured this type of crime was either personal or he was a repeat offender, like whose DNA was going to be in CODIS. This could not be this dude's first time. So either way, they thought it was going to be solved pretty quickly. So forensic labs run their tests, and the touch DNA from around her neck and the duct tape and all over her body matched the sperm found inside of her. So they knew it was one guy. Couldn't have been multiple, which is what they assumed, but it's nice to have, science back it up.
Sure.
They were able to develop a full DNA profile and create a full genetic picture of their suspect. But shockingly, there was no match in CODIS. Out of all the felons whose DNA samples are in this database, millions, this dude was not.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So they tested again against their only suspect, Eric, and there's no match. Eric did not do this.
Right.
It was Amber's nightmare realized. She was more terrified than ever. And to feel this way with a 3-year-old son at this point, I can't imagine.
I know.
Like, how do you be fun-loving mom when you are struggling to walk out the front door?
So stressed. I know.
Yeah, it breaks my heart for her. Dane Stratton, the patrol cop who found Amber, said it was a kick to the gut when there was no match in CODIS and it wasn't Eric. He thought if this was this person's opening act, there's no telling how it was going to escalate.
Yeah.
So he took it upon himself to patrol downtown Fort Collins when bars were closing and would serve as a taxi for people.
That is so
I know.
Nice. I used to use policemen as taxis.
Yeah.
in
In
Oxford.
college.
If one was
Yeah.
like if I was walking back to the dorm or whatever, and one drove by and would be like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just walking. Will you give me a ride to
Yeah.
Martin?" And you'd be like,
Right.
"Sure."
I'm a drunk
They
18-year-old. Do not put me in cuffs.
I cannot think of one time they said no, and that I did that a lot.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm sure.
I didn't like flag them down, but yeah, if they stopped to be like, "You good?" I'd be like,
Totally.
"Well, not
Yeah.
really. Can I get a ride?"
But can I see your badge first?
Yeah, where'd you get that patrol car?
He was in normal clothes at one point. It's weird.
It was weird. No,
No,
they're
I'm
all
just kidding.
nice.
Yeah, he did not. Officer Stratton did not want anyone, especially women, walking home late at night.
Yeah, but first of all, this guy just has never been caught.
Sure,
We don't know if this is his opening act, but still, yikes.
for sure. So, starting from scratch, during Eric's interview, he mentioned some sketchy people Amber was once friends with. I don't know why they were sketchy. I don't know what the deal was, but one by one, they go through the list of names that he gave them, brought each one of them for an interview, took DNA samples, and again, nothing, dead end. So now they have determined this guy must be a stranger to Amber, and this was a crime of opportunity. But he happened to have duct tape and rope with him. It's so weird. It's so bizarre.
Yeah.
It makes no sense. And he left traces of himself everywhere at that crime scene, but he is nowhere. Not in Colorado, not in the country. This guy's a ghost. Detective Seymour starts referring to him as the boogeyman. Michael Myers shit there.
Right.
They were going down every avenue. If a sexual harassment was reported, like some creep got handsy at a fraternity party, they would ask for his DNA. They pulled someone over once at a traffic stop and noticed that they had red duct tape in the car, and they asked for DNA.
Oh my God, and the guy gave it to him?
Yeah.
I mean,
sure. What do you
wow.
If there's a murder with someone with red duct tape, that'd be like, not a murder, sorry, an attack. I'd be like, oh, yes, please.
Please, let's rule me out.
Yeah.
Now.
She even heard about a murderer in Virginia who used duct tape and called their police department to see if by chance this person was in Fort Collins in 2013. Everywhere. And apparently you get 7 years to be a detective, then they're rotated out again, rotated out to be on patrol again. And Detective Seymour was due for rotation soon. So she was really determined to solve this before that happened.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually they thought he was either dead or left the country. So over 2 years after the attack in 2015 with 0 leads, Amber starts accepting the fact that they would probably never know. And the help she was getting for depression and PTSD began to work. Slowly but surely, she was making progress and eventually got a boyfriend, moved into that house with people, the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
She had good days and bad, which is where her late night talks with Sam helped. He was very supportive, and she said everyone in the house made her feel very safe, and eventually life just kind of moved on, and she focused on raising her son. Then one day, a bike gets stolen.
Okay.
And being a pissed off owner, they called the cops to report it. And in a very rare scenario, they find it. Bikes aren't usually found. I'm honestly shocked the police even looked.
Really?
But they did, and it was in a pawn shop. And the guy who owned the pawn shop gave them the name of the person who brought it in. Typically, this would be a slap on the wrist. But this guy was actually arrested because, fun fact, providing false information to a pawn shop in Colorado is a felony. Felony.
Like selling a stolen good.
Yeah.
False information.
False information.
Okay.
It is in Colorado, providing false information to a pawnbroker is a class 6 felony that can result in up to 18 months in prison, a fine of $100,000 and 1 year of parole.
Right.
Also a felony in Florida, just FYI.
Okay. All right, Floridians, you heard it.
You heard it here, and Coloradians.
Well, yeah.
And you know it comes with being a felon? Mandatory DNA swab.
Hell
you know where that sample is stored?
CODIS.
You know whose sample is also in CODIS? Amber's attacker.
Oh my God. The bike thief.
Bike thief. So in 2017, 4 years after the attack, Detective Seymour was hiking with her kids and gets a text message from her boss that says, call CBI, there's an update in the duct tape case. And she yelled, we got him.
No.
Just yelled in those echoey Colorado mountains.
Hell yeah.
So she wasted no time. She immediately called, and forensic analyst Melissa Grass was very excited to share the news that they did, in fact, have a match. Not just any match, it was 1 in 10 quintillion. That is 10 with 18 zeros behind it.
Holy shit.
Science is so cool.
Science is crazy.
First thing she does was call Officer Stratton, to tell him it's over. The duct tape case is solved, which was huge for him because he too had developed PTSD and suffered from auditory hallucinations at night. He couldn't get Amber's screams out of his head.
Oh my God.
He couldn't get the crime scene out of his head, actually. So when he wasn't self-appointed cab driver for drunk college students, he was patrolling the parks all night to see if this monster would come back. But it's over now, and he's amped.
Okay, good.
Then she calls Amber and asks if she can come over to talk to her. She could hardly contain her excitement over the phone, but she had to tell her in person. Mm-hmm. At this point, Amber moved into her own apartment with her son. So Detective Seymour goes over there and tells her that they have a DNA match, and Amber nearly gets lightheaded. She was elated and so shocked.
Oh my God. How many years later is this?
4.
Okay.
Wait, what year is it?
That was just a different way of asking what year it is at this point. Because I remember the attack was 2013. So I was like, I can just do some quick math instead of asking what year it is.
Well, 2017.
I got that.
Detective Seymour even brought a picture of him and asked Amber if she's ready to see her attacker. And very nervously but excited, Amber says, F yeah. And the detective pulls out a picture of her former roommate who she met 2 years after the attack, Sam Moon.
This is, yes. I remember why I added this one to our list. Why didn't
I don't know why we didn't do it.
That's
fucking weird.
That's insane.
Oh my God. So her former roommate, who she met 2 years after the attack, the shoulder she cried on, the one she felt closest to in the house. And may I just say, Fort Collins is not a tiny ass town where everyone knows everyone. Like the metropolitan area is about 350,000 people.
Yeah. So
odds of them meeting through a friend of her boyfriend and living together is insane. And it's not like sorry, what?
No, I'm gonna say I can't remember if he knew that moving in, or it wasn't until she like revealed this tragic thing she went through that he was like, oh shit.
Well, it's debated because
okay.
Well, first of all, it's to your point or to your question at the beginning of the episode were they all in school or whatever? No, it's not like they were in school together because it's Colorado State that's there, right? I don't know what their undergrad is, but they were definitely not at school together because he's 32. He was 32 at the time of her attack. He's 12 years older than her. This was, wow, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
She immediately told the detective there was a mistake. She explained she knows Sam, but didn't meet him until 2 years after that night, and he is completely harmless. Genuinely believe there was some sort of mistake at the lab. And the detective just breaks down the analytics for her and said there is no scientific way it could be anyone else, and told her, like, you may have met him in 2015, but his sperm was inside of you in 2013.
Oh my God, what a mind fuck.
Can you imagine this? And Amber needs a minute to let this sink in. She takes a day. Detective leaves. She sleeps on it. The next day, she goes down to the police station to finish talking to Detective Seymour. And then she gives her a very scary task. Okay. She asks Amber to call Sam and tell him while they record it.
Oh my God, yes. I remember that phone conversation. Holy.
Yep. Well, you're going to hear it again. The forensic evidence is there. So the case is pretty solid, but if he confessed, it would be ironclad. And without hesitation, Amber says, sure. So they set up a whiteboard in front of her to write notes in case she gets stuck. And here it is. And mind you, Sam and Amber, they've kind of lost touch since Amber moved out.
Ooh.
Hey, it's Amber.
Amber Smith?
Yeah. What's up?
Not much. How are you?
So, remember how I told you about, like, that stuff that happened to me in 2013 about that guy that broke my jaw and stuff?
Yeah?
Yeah, so the police contacted me and said, your DNA matched up.
What? Oh my God, Amber, I don't know what to say. I did not hurt you.
Okay, but they have your DNA. So how do you explain that?
What the
Yeah, from the 2013 incident, the one I told you about, the one I broke down to you and told you about multiple times.
Yeah, Amber, I remember you talking about that. That's sick.
Yeah, it is.
Amber,
yeah.
Amber, I'm gonna stop you right there. I did not hurt you. I don't know how this is happening. This is surreal.
What do you mean you don't know? It doesn't just come up in there, and I've never met you before 2015, so how the would your DNA be in my vagina, dude? How do you explain that?
I don't know, Amber. I don't know. Amber, stop. I didn't hurt you. I didn't hurt you. I didn't hurt you. It was you. Rossboro Park, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we had sex. I didn't hurt you. We had sex.
I forgot about this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh, I forgot.
Okay.
Okay.
So after a while of denying it, that was kind of chopped up. It's like a 10-minute recording.
Sure.
I think a light bulb clicks in his head of this is likely being recorded because he all of a sudden says, "Oh my God, it was you," and said that they had sex in the park that night, but he didn't hurt her. And he explains he saw a Craigslist ad from a girl giving free blowjobs in the park that night and went. And he didn't know it was Amber, but they ended up having sex. But he left after that. He did not hurt her. And she's like, what? First of all, ain't nobody giving free blowjobs.
Go show us that Craigslist listing.
Right.
And so you had consensual sex. That's weird because her friend tried twice to wake her up to leave the park and couldn't do it.
Right.
So, but you woke her up, and not only woke her up, got her to agree to consensual sex. Get out of here. Get out.
Right. And I imagine Eric testified or said that I can't find anything about, I wish the trial documents obviously were there, but I'm like, if I'm Eric, I'm like, no, we went to drink together.
Yeah.
I didn't see her post on Craigslist and I could not wake her up. Like, right. It's just ridiculous. What the hell would be the point of giving free sexual favors like that?
It's obviously
ridiculous
nonsense.
He quickly says he's done talking to her and hangs up the phone. And I can only imagine what that oh shit moment was like being like, why did I go with the Craigslist thing? No one's going to believe that. And we don't, Sam. We don't. Cops call him down to the station the next day and he's just sobbing in that interview. He says that there's been a huge misunderstanding. He gives that solid Craigslist story because he now has to, and adds that he actually left the park, went home and told his roommate, Bryce Bailey, that some girl is having sex with people in the park for free. And he just jumps out of bed and heads to the park. Just getting there around 2 or 3 a.m., no questions asked.
Oh, God.
And I know, like,
this is making me uncomfortable.
I know. It's so ridiculous. I know some pretty horny guys, and they would even be like, what? Okay.
No, thanks.
No, I'm good. But not Bryce, according to Sam. He just ran without hesitation.
Okay, so now Bryce is
yeah. He goes on to say that a few hours later, he heard Bryce come back with a girl, and they went into his room for a while. And then he heard screaming. Sam was scared, so he stayed in his room. But when the screaming stopped, he snuck out and peeked under Bryce's door. And he saw Bryce throw what appeared to be a dead girl over his shoulder, and her whole face was covered in blood. So he ran back to his room and locked it. The next morning, he asked Bryce, did you have fun with someone last night? And Bryce beat the shit out of him and said, yeah, and I killed her. And you're next if you tell anyone.
Oh my
like some
goodness.
cheesy ass movie. It's very like, why I oughta?
Yeah.
Like, by the way, Bryce and Sam have known each other since they were 5 years old.
Oh my God, are you serious?
Yeah, trying to pin it on your childhood friend. Detective Seymour's like, but this doesn't make sense. What you're telling us really doesn't add up. We took DNA from her hands, neck to everywhere.
Yeah.
And it was your DNA. And he goes, I'm confused. So was there sperm all over her?
He thinks that's the only DNA. That's the only DNA. And
no, touch DNA. Your skin cells, your fingerprint, they're all over her, you dipshit.
I mean, he really doesn't get how it works. And you know whose wasn't? Bryce's. Like, this is very easy.
I know. It's very he's not a quick thinker, this guy.
The story we just told
he's
you.
Just sobbing. And then he kicked my ass and told me. And it's like I'm very uncomfortable.
Dramatic. Yeah. The story he told, we just told you we had DNA and it matches yours. And there's not like a foreign DNA in there. So this Bryce story really doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm. And then the defense will argue that'll come into play again. But he sticks to his story at this point. So detective, she does a few things. One, she goes to the house Bryce and Sam were living in at the time and looks under Bryce's door to see the vantage point, to see what Sam saw. She couldn't see shit. She said maybe you could see a heel of someone walking by if they were close to the door, but in no way did Sam see Bryce throw what appeared to be dead body over his shoulder.
Sure.
She also got a search warrant for Craigslist. By now, Craigslist removed their personal and adult section, so they had to get a warrant to look at 2013's listings. And shocking to no one, found nothing in the Fort Collins area of a woman having sex with people for free.
Weird.
I know, crazy, right? They bring Bryson and tell him what Sam said, and he states the obvious that this is ridiculous. He had never met, seen, talked to Amber until she started dating his friend after 2013.
Yeah.
You see, the stolen bike that revealed Sam's identity was Bryce's. Bryce reported it. So that was clearly Sam's attempt to get some stupid revenge, and it backfired tremendously.
That's insane.
Right.
That's insane. That's what got him caught. Holy shit.
I know.
God, you're a dick to your childhood friend.
I mean,
stealing
friendship's
the bike,
over. Friendship's over.
The bike was already the straw, but then all this? Yeah. Wow.
My God. You're trying to get me in trouble for reporting that you stole my bike, by pointing a finger at me for murder or attempted murder? This is ridiculous.
No. Get out of here.
Sam pleads not guilty and trial starts in August 2019. Responding officer Dan Stratton was called to the stand to explain the crime scene and couldn't get through it without crying.
I cannot believe he pled not guilty. Sorry.
I know.
I was just thinking, surely okay, whatever. Go on.
Yeah. If I'm the jury and I see this big cop crying in a rape case that took place 6 years ago, I am putty in your hand. I'll vote however you want me to, sir.
Yeah. Juror dismissed.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, bye. The defense had to use that silly Craigslist story, and that's just what it is, silly, and said the search of the 2013 archives wasn't thorough enough. It's there. They just didn't look hard enough. Okay.
Then you do
show
it
to us.
You get your own search warrant.
Wouldn't that be the first thing you did?
Yeah.
Right. All right. Well, then show it to us. They also argued that the DNA found on Amber's neck and tape was contaminated because she was dragged and taken to various spots in the park. Therefore, it was cross-contamination that spread Sam's DNA to her neck and duct tape. However, prosecution said, no. They swabbed all areas of that tape, the sticky side too, and his DNA was on it.
There you go.
In the scenario that the defense is arguing, it would only be the outside of the tape that was contaminated and had his DNA. They're like, no, we did the inside where his fingers would be, where his thumbs would be placing it over her mouth, eyes, everywhere.
Right.
Also, to your point earlier, there's no one else's DNA. It wasn't Sam's and an unknown male's.
Right.
Only Sam's. So nah. What they couldn't present at trial was the fact that they found 624 searches of rape and torture porn on his cell phone. This was after 2013, which is why I don't think they could use it in his trial. But it goes to show that he was going to do it again.
Yeah.
His sadistic fantasies are
too much.
Alive and well.
Yeah.
The jury deliberated and had their verdict, and the judge read out the first charge, attempted first-degree murder. We, the jury, found the defendant not guilty.
What?
And there is an audible gasp, and Amber just sobs.
Wait, what?
Don't worry. There are more charges.
Well, yeah, okay.
He is found guilty of 2 counts of sexual assault, second-degree kidnapping, and first-degree assault. And the judge sentenced him to the absolute max, which is 128 years.
Oh, good.
Yeah. He'll be eligible for parole in 2115 at 130 years old.
Okay. Ooh.
Holy
shit. I cannot believe they found him not guilty. I definitely don't
Crazy,
remember that.
Right? I know. It's insane. I'm like,
whatever.
He had rope and duct tape with him. He said, again, speculation. You are going to blank. It couldn't have been live happily.
No,
it wasn't going to be that.
Was not that.
I know it wasn't that. That I do know.
Keith would have said that one.
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit. Anyway, okay. So he gets out at 130. What? He could still be violent then. Just kidding.
Sure. After the trial, Dan Stratton approached Amber to reintroduce himself as the officer who found her. He wanted to hear her speaking voice to replace the memory of her screaming in his head.
Oh my gosh, this guy is an angel.
I love him so much. Amber said she's at peace now and went on to be a counselor, which Detective Seymour created a GoFundMe for to help with her tuition and getting certified.
Oh, good. Did it get a ton?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
See, they're so invested.
They're sweet. Does that guy is he still a cop?
Yeah, and I was looking for an update on him. I just wanted to see.
Yeah.
And there's nothing on him except that,
Oh Lord.
a story that I'm like, I kind of can't believe this made the news. That he was on some call, or he responded to some call on Christmas Day, completely unrelated to whatever. He's looking at his flashlight. Sorry.
What? I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Sorry.
Obviously, it's unrelated.
I know, sorry. He's responding to a call at someone's house, and he's walking with his flashlight to like approach the house and spots a wedding band. And
Oh.
inside the wedding band was like a very unusual name, like not common at all, blah, 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 blah. So he like put it in the system, found that this uncommon name was a victim in some unrelated crime that he reported years ago. So he happened to call the number that was on file. And I was like, hi, did you lose a wedding band? And he was like, yeah, like 2 years ago. He was like, well, I have it. And we returned it on Christmas Day.
Oh, that's nice.
It was like it was like a community
Oh, just
article about like how community comes together.
a feel-good story. That's
A feel-good
nice.
story. It's
Wow.
nice.
That
But I'm
person
like,
was like, I
oh,
was certain that was long gone.
yeah.
That's nice.
So,
Great.
I know.
See, he's good. He's good.
See, a heart of gold, this one.
I
See,
mean-
most people are the worst, but Fort Collins police are the best.
FCPD.
And that is a horrific story of Amber Smith and Sam
Holy
Moon.
shit.
And that's what I'm like, okay, so Detective Seymour thinks he was stalking her and made his way back into her life. How though? Like
How?
just pure coincidence that, oh my God, my best friend from childhood, since age 5, Bryce Bailey, is friends with her boyfriend. And they did not know each other. So he would have, I guess, had to pull out her wallet to see who he was attacking and who he was, quote, gonna kill.
Well, was it all over the news after that? I mean, I'm sure maybe he figured it out then who she was.
Yeah, I guess so. Not small. I guess. College town, big
Yeah.
crime. Yeah.
Ooh.
But again, how do you make your way through?
I know. I don't know how you like get in her life, even if you did know who she was,
To me, I feel
without
like
just the opportunity. You're like, holy
Right.
shit, my friend knows her. Gross.
right. It's beyond it. To me, I feel like it has to be a coincidence. That would just work out way too perfectly.
Yeah.
Patrons: Marie, Julia, Jay, Caitlin, Jennifer, Anna, Chanel, Shauna. I say Shauna with a question mark because it's SEANA.
Mm-hmm. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you so much for joining. I do have a custom shout out from Lauren.
Thank you. Hey, patrons, sorry, real quick. I'm behind on the gifts again, so I'm promised they're coming. I'm behind.
Rachel's a one-woman show
It's a stressful time.
because, as it turns out, I'm the worst.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, go on. Custom.
Custom from Lauren to Jordy, Becca, Noel, and all other o'clockers who finally took my advice and started listening to PAT dubs. That's us.
That's us.
It's about time, and maybe y'all start listening to me more. JK, love y'all.
Oh, there
Y'all
you go.
listen to Lauren.
You've got to listen to her. She has
got
great
to.
recs. Great recs.
Great recommendation. She's wise beyond her years.
Thanks for spreading the good word.
Thank you.
That's what it's about.
That really is what it's about. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
And thanks to everyone.
Y'all
Y'all are the best. People are the worst.
Ugh.